Chapter 4 of A Man of Means. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Tim Bulkley of BigBible.org. A Man of Means by P.G. Wodehouse and C.H. Bovill. The episode of the Live Weekly. It was with a start that Roland Bleke realized that the girl at the other end of the bench was crying. For the last few minutes, as far as his preoccupation allowed him to notice them at all, he had been attributing the subdued sniffs to a summer cold, having just recovered from one himself. He was embarrassed. He blamed the fate that had led him to this particular bench. But he wished to give himself up to quiet deliberation on the question of what on earth he was to do with £250,000, to which figure his fortune had now risen. The sniffs continued. Roland's discomfort increased. Chivalry had always been his weakness. In the old days, on £140 a year, he had had few opportunities of indulging himself in this direction. But now it seemed to him sometimes that the whole world was crying out for assistance. Should he speak to her? He wanted to, but only a few days ago his eyes had been caught by the placard of a weekly paper bearing the title of Squibs, on which in large letters was the legend, "Men Who Speak to Girls." And he had gathered that the accompanying article was a denunciation rather than a eulogy of these individuals. On the other hand, she was obviously in distress. Another sniff decided him. "I say, you know," he said. The girl looked at him. She was small, and at the present moment had that air of the floweret surprised whilst shrinking, which adds a good 33% to a girl's attractions. Her nose, he noted, was delicately tip-tilted. A certain pallor added to her beauty. Roland's heart executed the opening steps of a buck and wing dance. "Pardon me," he went on, "but you appear to be in trouble. Is there anything I can do for you?" She looked at him again, a keen look which seemed to get into Roland's soul and walk about it with a searchlight. Then, as if satisfied by the inspection, she spoke. "No, I don't think there is," she said, "unless you happen to be the proprietor of a weekly paper with a woman's page and need an editress for it." "I don't understand." "Well, that's all any one could do for me. Give me back my work, or give me something else of the same sort." "Oh, have you lost your job?" "I have. So would you mind going away? Because I want to go on crying, and I do it better alone. You won't mind my turning you out, I hope. But I was here first, and there are heaps of other benches." "No, but wait a minute. I want to hear about this. I might be able What I mean is, think of something. Tell me all about it." There is no doubt that the possession of £250,000 tones down a diffident man's diffidence. Roland began to feel almost masterful. "Why should I?" "Why shouldn't you?" "There's something in that," said the girl reflectively. "After all, you might know somebody. Well, as you want to know, I've just been discharged from a paper called Squibs. I used to edit the woman's page." "By Jove! Did you write that article on Men Who Speak?" The hard manner in which she had wrapped herself as in a garment vanished instantly. Her eyes softened. She even blushed. Just a becoming pink, you know. "You don't mean to say you read it? I didn't think that any one ever really read Squibs." "Read it?" cried Roland, recklessly abandoning truth. "I should jolly well think so. I know it by heart." "Do you mean to say that after an article like that they actually sacked you? Threw you out as a failure?" "Oh, They didn't send me away for incompetence. It was simply because they couldn't afford to keep me on. Mr. Petheram was very nice about it." "Who's Mr. Petheram?" "Mr. Petheram's everything. He calls himself the editor, but he's really everything except office boy, and I expect he'll be that next week. When I started with the paper there was quite a large staff, but it got whittled down by degrees till there was only Mr. Petheram and myself. It was like the crew of the Nancy Bell. They got eaten one by one till I was the only one left, and now I've gone. Mr. Petheram is doing the whole paper now." "How is it that he can't get anything better to do?" Roland said. "He has done lots of better things. He used to be at the Carmelite House, but they thought he was too old." Roland felt relieved. He conjured up a picture of a white-haired elder with a fatherly manner. "Oh, he's old, is he?" 24." There was a brief silence. Something in the girl's expression stung Roland. She wore a rapt look, as if she were dreaming of the absent Petheram. Confound him! He would show her that Petheram was not the only man worth looking rapt about. He rose. "Would you mind giving me your address?" he said. "Why?" "In order," said Roland carefully, "that I may offer you your former employment on Squibbs. I'm going to buy it. After all, your man of dash and enterprise, your Napoleon, does have his moments." Without looking at her, he perceived that he had bowled her over completely. Something told him that she was staring at him, open-mouthed. Meanwhile, a voice within him was murmuring anxiously, "I wonder how much this is going to cost." "You're going to buy Squibbs?" Her voice had fallen away to an awe-struck whisper. "I am." She gulped. "Well, I think you're wonderful." So did Roland. "Where will letter find you?" he asked. "My name is March. Bessie March. I'm living at 27 Guildford Street." 27. Thank you. Good morning. I will communicate with you in due course." He raised his hat and walked away. He had only gone a few steps when there was a patter of feet behind him. He turned. I just wanted to thank you," she said. "Not at all," said Roland. "Not at all." He went on his way, tingling with just triumph. Petheram? Who was Petheram? Who, in the name of goodness, was Petheram? He had put Petheram in his proper place, he rather fancied. Petheram, forsooth! Laughable. A copy of the current number of Squibbs, purchased at a bookstall, informed him, after a minute search to find the editorial page, that the offices of the paper were in Fetter Lane. It was evidence of his exalted state of mind that he proceeded thither in a cab. Fetter Lane is one of those streets in which rooms that have only just escaped being cupboards by a few feet achieve the dignity of offices. There might have been space to swing a cat in the editorial sanctum of Squibbs, but it would have been a near thing. As for the outer office, in which a vacant-faced lad of 15 received Roland and instructed him to wait while he took his card in to Mr. Petheram, it was a mere box. Roland was afraid to expand his chest for fear of bruising it. The boy returned to say that Mr. Petheram would see him. Mr. Petheram was a young man with a mop of hair and an air of almost painful restraint. He was in his shirt sleeves, and the table before him was heaped high with papers. Opposite him, evidently in the act of taking his leave, was a comfortable-looking man of middle age, with a red face and a short beard. He left as Roland entered, and Roland was surprised to see Mr. Petheram spring to his feet, shake his fist at the closing door, and kick the wall with a vehemence which brought down several inches of discolored plaster.